Sandbox is this magical residency for composers. What it does is that it gives the composer a chance to workshop their works. So you have an entire year to write this piece, and that never happens in the real world. When we first started talking about this project, we had an idea that came from one of the members of the orchestra to talk about music that comes from a composer's life experience. I love the idea of doing something about somebody's life, but not my own. And I thought, let's create a character that I can talk through as if it was myself, but really as a character. And at the time, I was so interested in AI. AI is going to become more and more part of our lives, but it needs to be taken with a grain of salt and looked at carefully, because it could also do a lot of damage. So this character that I'm going to be performing as, I think it's like a hybrid human-machine, but I don't know if it's a human who became a machine or a machine that became a human. That's up for interpretation. But it's definitely an entity that has been around before and being rebooted to life and goes through every cycle of machine learning that AI goes through in order to do what it does. And I just portrayed it as like this cyborg. It's what we have references of, in pop culture. The movements in the piece and the character, they came out of, I think, intuition of how machines are getting actually more and more human looking. The suit that I'm wearing is made by a tech company that measures the body. You can see every nuance of the body, and that's how we usually see those characters being portrayed, right? And it's easier to see the movement. In the piece, I'm using two electronic devices. One of them is a frame drum, but it's all MIDI controlled. So the sounds that are coming out of it are very electronic-like. You couldn't create those sounds with a frame drum. The other one that I use is a ring. It literally changes the scape of the sound. So depending on what you do with your hand, it's like a theremin almost. It will change the pitch, the modulation. It's really an incredible, interesting piece of technology. I think this whole piece is more like an experiment in every sense of that word. It's an experiment that I'm doing as a composer. It's an experiment for the orchestra to have a composer come in and do what I'm doing, interaction-wise with them. One of my favorite parts in performing this piece is really the interaction with the orchestra, because I am never sure of what's going to happen. And the musicians aren't either. So we're like looking at each other. I see the look in their faces. They're not used to improvising so much, and they know that I'm going to do something different every time. With this orchestra, the coolest thing about them is that they are very open. Like, you could walk into a room and have it filled with people who are not willing to experiment. Or you can have a room that's filled with people who are like smiling and giving you feedback and cheering you on. And that is what I get from working with these musicians.